So it's the longest shutdown in American history. It might finally end today. The House is expected to vote later on regarding opening the government after the funding bill passed a key committee hurdle this morning with no Democrat votes. The White House says that the shutdown has showed that the Democrats what their true colors are.
The Democrats tried to stop President Trump. They couldn't stop him in the courts. They couldn't stop him with the mainstream media. So they shut down the government. And they were willing to cost the government tens of billions of dollars. The economy was in a great place, 3.8% growth last quarter, tracking very well this time. I think we're going to accelerate into 2026. But they've caused a hiccup here.
Yeah, it's a hiccup that Kevin Hassett projects will cut fourth quarter GDP in half. And I realize that there are options and the economy will probably make that up going forward. But I know the Democrats are going to jump on that and somehow blame their mistake that causally is going to cause slower growth, Taylor, on Donald Trump because they blame him for everything.
Yeah, the good news is, and Brian, maybe you brought this up, what we miss in Q4, hopefully we start to make up in Q1, Q2. Atlanta Fed GDP still is north of 3.84%, right? So there are some good hopes there on the horizon, but there are some cracks in the economy, Jackie, and I think shutdowns like this give us a chance to take a deep breath and really look at the labor market. And here was one statistic that made me a little bit nervous when you think about lower income people who maybe went without SNAP benefits or who are looking potentially at rising healthcare premiums, though I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because I think fewer subsidies, the better. But here was one statistic that made me a little bit nervous. Share of subprime borrowers who are at least 60 days past due on their auto loans are now the highest since 1994, up to 6.65%. So that, again, highlights when the government shuts down, there are real ramifications of that. We are looking at maybe a labor problem here. Larry, I think, would agree with me in hoping that the Federal Reserve starts to cut, which, by the way, those odds are now higher in December despite the lack of data. So again, you are always rooting for the economy, but there are some cracks in there that are starting to make me a little worried.
Are you for a half-point cut?
No.
No?
I like a 25. Halves make me nervous.
Definitely a quarter in December.
Sure, I guess. Although the inflation story is another thing, but you jump in and weigh in on that.
Well, but Jack, you brought up the issue of the shutdown and the effect on the economy, and we can talk about GDP in one quarter versus the next. But one thing that's interesting is the shutdown affected all the data. And there are, and this is Nick Timmeros in the Journal today, saying a number of Fed officials are using the lack of data as an excuse to be more hawkish. So if you really wanted to derail, I'm not saying this is all the logic that went on here, but one way to derail the Trump economy in the short term is to get rid of data, give the hawks and the Fed a reason to not cut rates, and then not cut rates.
Right.
And you could, that actually could stall economic progress.
Listen, I think they took all these things into account as they were strategizing whether they should do this or not do this. There were a lot more things that could help them in some ways. They might sort of just have egg on their face now, but the interest rate thing is definitely real. Elections in Virginia was definitely real. I think that they thought in the beginning that they could fight Trump and potentially win, so that was real for them until it then wasn't.
But the one thing we have learned clearly, I know this isn't necessarily economic at all, but there is no limit to the pain that Democrats were willing to allow Americans to go through in order to have the leverage. Remember all those people talk. Their leverage was equal to pain of America. They were using the pain of folks out there who were struggling to get by, whether it's the affordability, whatever it is. They were willing to force that pain on Americans in order to get more power leverage, and that's unacceptable.
But they lost.
Here he is.
They lost.
The man, the myth, the legend.
What happened was, I mean, basically, Trump and the GOP basically ended Chuck Schumer's career.
That's right.
I mean, that's basically what happened. Because this was never about health care or Obamacare. Never. This was just being against Trump, point number one. And point number two, the Trump boom that is developing in the economy. 3.8 in the second quarter, 4.0 in the third quarter. They're trying to wreck the fourth quarter and into January. They're trying to stop the Trump boom. That's what this was about. It was never about health care. Their health care stuff's going nowhere. Nowhere at all. Obamacare, 80% increase in premiums since it was incepted. That's crazy. That's all. But they lost. Trump and the Republicans held tough. They had said, no, we will not discuss anything until you sign this CR. So what happened? What they're going to sign today in the House was exactly, and it went through the Senate, exactly what Mike Johnson, who's such a smart chap, what he did a month ago or 6 weeks ago. That's the same thing, okay? Do you think Democrats are going to get credit for that? I don't think so. I doubt it very much. I don't know what the GDP impact would probably be. You may lose a point in the fourth quarter, but that's all there is to it. But Schumer's career is over.
Can I push back, though?
He's finito.
I don't think that Trump did anything to him. I think he did it to himself.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think they thought they could somehow push Trump around, and they thought they could somehow, here's another name, that they could push John Thune around. John Thune has become such an important, strong player in this whole drama or saga or whatever we're going to call it. And he agreed with the president and the speaker. No discussions until we get the government reopened again. He never blinked. He said, sure, I'd love to talk about health care. Just sign this little document, okay? And Thune is so good. I mean, really, the guy's been terrific. And the big loser here was Schumer. Did he do it to himself? I don't know. The left, they did it to themselves.
Yeah.
And this whole business about the elections and what happened in a couple of blue states, it all was wiped out by the shutdown stuff. Wiped out.
So
look at the stock market. I mean, is this still
It's up, Larry. Look at it there.
The stock market is telling you how great this economy is going to be. And people are making money hand over fist in their 401ks. Chuck Schumer? Who? This guy from Brooklyn? In fact, they're all from Brooklyn. Schumer's from Brooklyn. Jeffries is about 5 blocks away. Yeah. The other dope he's the minority leader. He's from Brooklyn. And Mondami's biggest margins are from Brooklyn.
It's the Brooklyn Mafia, but that's an insult to both the Mafia and Brooklyn.
I know. I mean, Brooklyn, the center of America? I don't think so. You know what I mean?
But Larry, I agree with you. I like Schumer's finito. Okay.
Yes. He's
so
done.
in January, who's playing his role?
Oh.
And are they going to be even more dedicated to trying to shut down the government again?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I don't know. I mean, is Schumer going to be replaced when they vote whenever they vote December, January? I don't know the answer. I mean, Dick Durbin, his number 2 for so many years, is retiring, and he wound up voting in favor of the CR.
Right.
So I don't know who they have. Their bench is pretty thin.
Another question.
That one.
What do you tell people like me who get a little nervous when extra super subsidies might expire to just normal subsidies? But what that means is going into midterms, healthcare premiums go up, and people are banging their head talking about affordability. How do you then, as a Republican, win that message going into next year?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of reforms to the healthcare system, okay? Including ACA, Obamacare. Look, the expenses of Obamacare have skyrocketed.
Yep.
Basically, people don't want it.
Right.
That's the whole point. They wanted these extra credits because they can't afford what's out there. And the whole system is perverted along those lines. It must be changed. And I think the GOP will try to change it. They're not going to let things expire. They'll always have something in there. But look, here's the thing. You were talking about Scott Bessent before, who told me and many others months and months ago, the trick here was to reprivatize the economy, right?
Yes.
Not the government, big government socialism. Reprivatize the economy. Okay. They will emphasize if you have a job, 163 million people working in this country, use your employer. It's cheaper.
Yes.
The coverage is almost always better. It's more voluntary. You have independent choices.
Yep.
They don't shove it down your throat. You have to buy this, this, and this. That's one important thing. The other thing that's important is these health savings accounts. They're kicking in. You can divert your money into there with newly born kids. That's another thing that's a factor. But I think the work will be cut out for them.
Okay.
They're going to have to do something. And I don't think they should base it on Obamacare.
Yeah.
I think that thing is just a catastrophe.
It's
So
one
what do you
thing
do
that
with it?
came
Do you
out.
kill it? Do you just kill it somehow
That's a good-
altogether?
I don't.
What do you do?
In the first term, we killed a lot of it. Particularly forcing individuals to take it. Okay, we killed that, but we lost by one vote.
Yeah.
On I'll just call it an overhaul, right? So I don't know. I mean, there has to be a health care strategy coming out of the White House and the House. I'm going to ask. I've got Steve Scalise coming on. He's a very smart guy, policy guy. Tonight. It's one of the questions I'm going to ask him. In fact, I'm going to say Jackie DeAngelis wants to know how that's going to work out. He likes the personal touch. He knows you.
We got a caller with a question.
If you want,
Caller, Jackie DeAngelis calling in.
By the way, I was just going to say, you want to come sit on the set, pick up the phone, talk to him.
Have a little red phone
I'm
there.
fine with that.
But isn't that one thing that has come out of this whole mess of the past month that is a good thing, is that people now are aware of the fact that Obamacare has just become this black pit into which you can't fill it up quick enough.
Yep.
For the hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and where does it end? They want $1.5 trillion to fill up that hole, and that's not going to be enough.
It blew the lid off that. And the American people watched Mike Johnson every day as he got up to brief during the shutdown and hammered the message home, I think, regarding what the Democrats were shutting the government for. And the more people heard it and the more they understood it was about Obamacare subsidies, that it was to backtrack on things they had done in the Big Beautiful Bill to expand health care for immigrants, illegal.
Able-bodied people
Yes.
have to work. It is so, it's like 85% favorable on that point. But frankly, the best thing I heard this morning from Scott Bessent was they're going to lift the tariffs on coffee beans and bananas and other fruit, so you can have a decent breakfast and it won't
Save it for
charge
the
you
next
so much.
segment.
Save it for the next segment. That's that's really cool.
But
right.
why tariffs on coffee? I didn't never figure that one out.
Make sure to catch Larry's show today as he front-running on this. He's got House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and Steve Forbes joining him 4 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Fox Business.